It's September, it's fall, you know what that means. We are into the final quarter of the Canadian Premier League regular season, and what a season it has been. Forge and Ottawa are having two of the greatest seasons this league has ever seen up at the top. Great battle between the middle three for the third place spot in the playoffs, and the bottom three, well, they are a complete disaster. Here's my update for every team 3/4 of the way into this season and what their outlooks are looking into the home stretch. 8th place, we have Vancouver FC. It has been a disaster of a season for VFC. They are currently on pace for 3 wins and 15 points, which would put them 5 points behind 2022 FC Edmonton for the worst season in Canadian Premier League history. And need I remind you, in 2022, FC Edmonton did not have an owner and all of their players were in on loan. And yet somehow, despite that, they are in a position where they could very feasibly make the finals of the Canadian Championship. I don't know how that works. But Vancouver FC is having a historically bad season in the Canadian Premier League. And it's one of these seasons where you're looking at this and like, yeah, they're second in the league in U21 minutes, but Ottawa's first and Ottawa's one of the best teams in the league. So are these U21s that Vancouver have actually good enough to be in this league? Not really sure. It's a complete disaster situation, a team that needs to be completely rebuilt from the ground up. Keep Mesquita around, he has been great, but beyond that, this team has just been disastrous in all areas of the pitch. There's not one specific area where you can look at and say that doesn't need addressing. This team needs to start fresh for next season and hope that they can field a competitive team next year. In 7th, we have Valour FC. Valour are being Valour. This is kind of what we've always expected from them. Again, not a single area of the pitch where you can look at this team and say, yeah, they've been good. They're defensively the worst team in the league, although Vancouver is actually catching up to them in that regard. Offensively, they're the worst team in the league. Somehow, despite that, they have more points and wins than Vancouver FC. They have 0 goals from players listed as forwards on their site page. No one on their team has more than 3 goals either. Again, not a single player has stepped up and really ran the offense for this team. And yeah, like they lost Sean Hundal to York, but even when he was with Valour, he wasn't really lighting it up or anything. So again, another team where just everything in the offseason needs to change. Another team where this season is, again, another write-off. And another team where the fans deserve way better and the team needs to figure it out and start performing if they want to exist in that market. In 6th place, we have Pacific FC. Now, Pacific is kind of in the same spot as they were in the halfway point of the season. They're 9 points back of a playoff spot. Their defense has been off what you need to make the playoffs. Their offense has been off what you need to make the playoffs. Yeah, they've got Alejandro Diaz back and he's put in a few goals for them, which has been good. But all around, Pacific just needs more. And yeah, you can say things were looking good before the Ronan Krat injury, and I think him getting hurt at the beginning of the season was a massive loss for them. But 9 points back from the playoffs with 7 games left. Like, it's feasible that if they go on a massive run, they could make it, but just nothing they've done this season has indicated that they are capable of going on the run required for them to make the playoffs from this point. Pacific is a team that historically has been very good before in the Canadian Premier League. They just need to get back to that, get back to 2021, what they used to be, because this organization has shown that they are capable of doing it. So it's just a matter of actually doing what is required to be good in this league and not just floating like they have been the past couple of seasons. In 5th place, we have York United. Now, York in their last 7 games have 4 clean sheets. Defensively, this team has locked in quite a bit. However, Julian Altobelli has fallen off and the offense as a whole isn't really clicking at the same rate that it was. Now, they did get a 4-goal game out of Sean Hundal a couple weeks ago, which was massive, and they brought him in from Valour in the summer. But despite that, the problems of relying on Julian Altobelli scoring basically a goal per game obviously showed themselves, and despite the fact that they've gone 4 clean sheets out of the last 7 games, they haven't actually moved up in the standings as a result of that, as they have a couple of 0-0 draws in there as well. They need to get the offense back, and then they can really push for a 3rd place finish in the regular season, but it's going to be a dogfight to the end with Halifax and Cavalry to get that 3rd place spot, and I don't know if they have what it takes right now to win that race. In 4th, we have the Halifax Wanderers. Now, the Wanderers hit a bit of a rough patch recently. They were winless in 6 in a row leading up to the last last 2 games, but now they're on a nice little 2-game win streak, including a massive 4-0 win at home versus York this past weekend. Now, if these 2 wins are the start of a return to form for them, or if they are going to fall back into a bad patch remains to be seen. But as long as they don't fall back into a terrible drought like they did with those 6 winless games, they should be able to hold on to a home playoff spot. Thiago Coimbra as well for this team continues to be excellent. He's now 2nd in the league with goals of 11 and is basically a shoo-in for the U21 Canadian Player of the Year award. But overall, it's a matter of consistency for this Wanderers team, and they need a playoff game. Their home fans deserve a playoff game, and if they get a home playoff game, they will most likely win it. They just need to lock in and get that game. They cannot slip up. They cannot have another bad stretch. If they can get that home playoff game, they can potentially make noise in the playoffs. It's just a matter of, can they hold on to this spot and keep ahead of York? In 3rd place, we have Cavalry FC. Now, Cavalry, like Halifax, is coming off of a very weird stretch of games. First, they lost 3 in a row to York, Pacific, and Valour, not the group of teams that you want to be losing 3 games in a row to. And then they followed that up with a draw against Halifax at home, not a great result against a team that they're fighting for position with. And then after that, they had that wild 5-4 home win against Vancouver FC, which, what a crapshoot of a game that was, but Cavalry got the desired result out of it, which good teams tend to do in those types of games. And they followed it up with drawing Atletico Ottawa away and then beating Forge at home. Yes, Cavalry, of course it was Cavalry, ended Forge's undefeated season. So, bad start to the stretch of games, but fantastic ending to the stretch of games for Cavalry, and another team where, if they have another bad run of form like they did earlier last month, they are going to be in big trouble in this playoff race of Halifax and York. But, again, they just tied Ottawa away, they just beat Forge at home, they are in very good form right now, so if they can keep that rolling, they should be fine and should actually be the team to finish 3rd place in the league. Now, the Musi, Warshewski, Camargo trio is still firing on all cylinders. Keeping those guys going is the key to this team's success. And of course, they've brought back Dan Klomp, which shores up their defense and honestly makes them a serious contender for the CPL championship come playoff time. So Cavalry is definitely the dark horse to watch come the playoffs, because while their regular season record will not be as good as Ottawa's or Forge's with Dan Klomp, they are just as good as a team as those two. In 2nd place, we have Atletico Ottawa. The offense has actually slowed down a little bit for Atletico Ottawa, but they are still cooking. 42 goals now in the season. They're just 9 away from Cavalry's record of 51 set in the 2019 season. Sam Salter as well, 14 goals on the season through 21 games. He has already tied João Morelli's record for goals in a CPL season, which was set back in 2021. It is pretty much a given that Salter is going to break that record this season, which is incredible. And David Rodriguez is still, of course, firing on all cylinders as well. Now, beating Forge in the regular season standings looks to be almost impossible, but this Ottawa team has done a hell of a job making a race between them and an undefeated team looking like it's going to go down to the absolute wire for the regular season championship. And finally, in 1st, of course, Forge FC. Forge were so close to what I thought was impossible in the Canadian Premier League. They were undefeated through 20 games this season, and they actually looked like they were unbeatable. Week in, week out, they were just looking to be too good for this league, just dominating teams throughout August. And finally, on Labor Day weekend, they hit a wall and they finally had a bad game. And they did not look good on the weekend, and Cavalry took advantage and beat them 4-1. But it's all about now how Forge responds to that loss. Will this be the end of their aura that they had to them, the end of that mentality, the end of their confidence? Or will they be able to get it back like that? Because if they get it back, I mean, they are far and away the favorites for the Canadian Premier League, both regular season and finals. They looked unbeatable, truly did. They truly looked like they were too good for this league. But if this shakes their confidence, if they lose a game or two now to run out the rest of the season, all of a sudden, Ottawa finishes ahead of them in the standings, and they're going into the playoffs low on confidence, and then anything can happen. So really, the big question with Forge right now is how do they respond to this loss against Cavalry? Because unfortunately, even though they were undefeated, Ottawa has kept it so close that everything is still up in the air. So there you have it. 7 games left in the regular season for every team. Even though the playoffs are pretty much all but decided, there is drama still to be had. Forge and Ottawa fighting down to the death for first place in the league, and Cavalry, Halifax, and York having a massive three-headed tussle for third place and the massive advantage that gives over 4th and 5th in the playoffs. I don't know what's going to happen in this last sprint to the end of the season, but it will be very entertaining. So that is for this video. As always, if you'd like to hit like if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.